the three in a quiet little town where mornings smelled like fresh bread and the evenings hummed with the sound of cicadas. A single father named Daniel often brought his 8-year-old son, Mikey, to the park after school, letting him play while he caught up on work from a weathered bench by the fountain, his favorite spot because it reminded him of his late wife, who loved water and the way sunlight danced across it. Life had been hard since her passing, mornings rushed, nights lonely, and the weight of trying to be both mother and father rested heavy on Daniel's shoulders. Though he never complained, he simply tucked his pain behind the gentle smile he wore for his son. One breezy afternoon, as golden leaves chased each other across the pavement, Daniel noticed a small girl standing near the edge of the playground, clutching a worn crutch under one arm and staring at the bench he was sitting on as though afraid to approach. Her hair was messy, her clothes slightly oversized, and her single remaining leg trembled under her, but her eyes, nervous, warm, hopeful, were the kind that could stop a storm. She hesitated, swallowing hard, and then, with a voice so soft it nearly disappeared in the wind, she asked, Can I sit here?" Daniel looked up, expecting to see her parents nearby, but the girl stood alone, balancing carefully, pressing her lips together like she was prepared to be rejected. "Of course," Daniel said gently, moving to give her more space. But the girl didn't move immediately. She stared at him as if his words didn't seem real. "Really?" she whispered, her voice cracking in a way that made Daniel's chest tighten. "Yes, sweetheart. Come sit," he assured her. She lowered herself onto the bench with visible effort, wincing slightly, trying not to draw attention to it. But Daniel pretended not to notice, giving her dignity. Mikey, who had been building a crooked sandcastle nearby, ran over, curious. "Hi," he said cheerfully. "Want to play?" The girl shook her head shyly. "I can't run like you." "I'll slow you down," Mikey shrugged in his simple, honest way. "Then we won't run. We can sit and make a story castle." Her eyes widened. No one had ever adjusted for her before. She smiled so softly it looked like the first bloom after winter. As the kids chatted, Daniel watched, realizing the girl didn't talk like someone who had people waiting for her. "Where are your parents?" he asked casually. The girl froze. "I don't know my dad," she whispered. My mom works late. I usually wait for her outside the laundry shop, but today she told me to stay at the park until she finishes. She said it's safer here." Daniel's heart clenched. No child should say sentences like that. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena." A sweet, gentle name for a child who seemed to carry the weight of mountains. Over the next hour, Daniel learned more through broken bits of conversation. She had lost her leg in a car accident 2 years ago. Insurance barely covered anything. 2 K3, her mother worked 2 jobs. And sometimes Lena skipped meals so her mom could eat more. Yet she smiled, gratefully, humbly, the way only children who have seen too much hardship can. As they talked, Daniel found himself forgetting his work entirely, watching Mikey share his toys without hesitation and listening to Lena laugh, quiet but genuine, like the sound of something delicate beginning to heal. But then something happened that left Daniel speechless. When Mikey tripped and scraped his knee, Lena immediately dropped her crutch and crawled to him, wiping his tears with her small hands, comforting him even though she could barely balance herself. "It's okay," she whispered to the crying boy. "Pain doesn't last forever." The words came out too wise, too heavy for a child. Daniel knelt beside them, feeling something inside him crack open. "You're very strong," he said to her. She shook her head. "No, I'm just used to hurting." And that sentence, so blunt, so accepting of suffering, hit him harder than anything had since the day he lost his wife. As the sun drifted lower, the air growing cooler, Daniel noticed Lena rubbing her arms, shivering slightly. "Where's your jacket?" he asked. She shrugged. "I outgrew it." Daniel didn't think. He simply removed his own and wrapped it around her tiny shoulders. She gasped, her eyes filling instantly with tears. "Why are you being nice to me?" she whispered, her voice trembling like thin glass. Daniel knelt in front of her and said softly, "Because every child deserves kindness, and someone who sees them." She pressed her lips together, and a tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it fast, embarrassed. "No one ever says things like that to me," she whispered. Mikey hugged her, and she froze before slowly wrapping her arms around him, as though experiencing warmth for the first time. By the time Lena's mother arrived, frantic, exhausted, apologizing over and over, Daniel understood something profound. This child needed more than just a bench to sit on. She needed a place where she wasn't invisible, a place where she belonged. As her mother tried to pull her away, Lena looked back at Daniel, tears shining, and whispered, "Thank you for letting me sit here." Daniel swallowed the lump in his throat. He had no idea then how deeply those simple words would change all their lives forever. To all viewers watching this story, if it touched your heart even a little, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. The next day, Daniel found himself returning to the park earlier than usual, unable to stop thinking about Lena's trembling voice, her too thin arms, and the way she lit up when someone treated her like she mattered. He wasn't sure if she'd come again, but part of him hoped, needed to see her smile. Mikey had talked about her endlessly the night before, begging his dad to invite her again, which only deepened Daniel's sense that fate had placed this little girl in their lives for a reason. When 3:03 they arrived, Lena was already there, sitting alone on the swing without swinging, her crutch leaning against the chains, her smile tentative until she noticed them. She waved shyly, and Mikey sprinted toward her, nearly knocking her off the swing in his excitement.
She laughed, catching herself.
And Daniel couldn't help but smile at how instantly she transformed, from lonely to alive. As they played, Daniel sat next to her mother, Elena, who apologized repeatedly for the previous day. She wore exhaustion like a second skin, her shoulders permanently slumped as though carrying invisible burdens.